it takes time to organize. It doesn't just like overnight inject millions of dollars and now you just birthed 15 general managers just like perfect and ready to go. Like it doesn't happen like that, man. Like it just doesn't work. And so when you got guys seeking out pest control or alarm system, I mean, dude, I've heard so many things of all these folks that are trying to like implant leaders into businesses that have no earthly idea of our business.
Welcome back to the Patrick Carr Show, everybody. I got a real special treat for you here today. Got a guest that's been on the show before and somebody that I have an immense amount of respect for. If you've been in the roofing industry, you've heard his name through things like RoofCon, Roofing.com. Let's see here. Also, Roofing Academy. I mean, you've heard this guy's name all over the place, and I'm really happy to be able to bring some value to you today with somebody that understands the financial side of this industry. What is going on, brother? How you doing, Connor?
What's up, Patrick? Thanks for having me, man. I'm excited.
I'm excited about it, too. I get a chance to sit down with you again. Sometimes in the past, it's been a little bit rushed, I guess you might say. Yeah. One time we were out there in Colorado.
Yeah.
It was a little rushed.
I remember that, yeah. And I think we filmed one at another conference, and it was also kind of rushed. So for us to be able
we're in the studio today.
Yeah, it looks good. The Patrick Carr Show looks great. I love it.
We got John over there on the ones and twos.
Hello.
John's over there doing his thing, so if we need any research today. Brother, I was actually doing some research on you, and there were things about you that even I didn't realize, all right? Right now, you're the president of Executive Partners, all right? Awesome stuff that we have going on there. I've heard it before, fail fast, learn faster, basically. I love how you say that to people, but you've generated over $1 billion for your clients over the years. You are somebody that truly is an expert when it comes to how to run the operational sides of a business.
Well, I would like to not take full claim for fame of the $1 billion in business because we have great partners and we have folks that, you know, do an incredible job of making those sales happen. And obviously, we come in to provide some operational support in order to allow for the scalability of those sales. But yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, our role in our businesses that we partner with is the operational and financial aspects mostly. It doesn't mean that we don't hit on the other 8 quadrants as we talk about it. So like marketing, sales, production, finance, those are kind of those core components. And then personnel, leadership, technology, and operations as a whole. So like the onboarding, the HR, things like that. Those things are all, that's how you build the business, right? So for us, we focus in mostly on like the total ops side of things, as well as like anything that involves the back office.
Well, but one thing about you that I have liked is that you actually have built it the right way yourself. I mean, you started a company, you got up to generating $500,000 a month. You sold that company. You were in Oklahoma at that time. I think you sold to somebody in South Carolina, if I'm not mistaken. But then you also went from there and you go over to, I believe at that time, you're doing the roofing.com. You're helping to spearhead one of the largest roofing conferences, RoofCon, which every roofer has heard of across the country. So you get involved with them there. I have an immense amount of respect for Randy Brothers and the work you all did together. We work with Elite here, doing content with them.
I love it.
Immense amount of respect for them. So you've done it. You've been in this industry for an extended period of time, right? And I think that's special about you. You're not coming into this thing where you worked in other verticals and now trying to come into roofing. Roofing's been a big part. The trades have been a big part. Not just roofing, the trades have been a big part of your life.
Yeah, I mean, I started in corporate America, which is where I got the background that I have now.
Yeah,
but then, I spent the last 7-8 years now in trades. And so, and what I want to say about that is, yes, been an owner, been in the consulting, and never thought I would get into the consulting side or the coaching side or whatever you want to call it. Just found my way into that. When I moved to South Carolina, I ended up doing that roofing.com thing as the starting point in Revolt, if you guys remember that.
Of course.
So, and then things just kind of evolutionized from there. Again, as you mentioned, going to the Roofing Academy, partnering with Randy in that. Randy got a lot of love for, and shout out Randy. But then moved on to doing my own thing, and that's Executive Partners. That's what we're doing now. Yeah. But in the process, also taking on minority partnerships now. So I'm still in the game. Like I'm still traveling all over. I got a couple of deals that I've got out there in the countryside, and love the business, and really obsessed with business in general, but especially in this industry and in this vertical, because a lot of the things that I love and a lot of the things that I like to, we're talking about the financials, the ops, and the leadership. Yep. Those are three things. You can have a bunch of guys out there going and selling, making things happen. There's, a billion and one marketing agencies, not like yours. You got a great, great thing going with your video and editing, but a lot of marketing agencies out there. And I think that the things that are, again, more back of house and more of like, hey, how do we make this thing a rocket ship and build that launch pad? That's the thing that fires me up the most and what I love the most. So
it's so unique about you because the things that fire you up, everybody considers to be kind of boring.
It is boring.
You know what I mean? Boring. I'm writing this down. Financial, ops, back office. Yeah. Everybody wants to talk sales, door-to-door, tactics. Yeah. How are we going to, close the lead, speed the lead, all this stuff. You're talking, and you do that, ops, and you're making sure that works. But the one thing that I've said on this show before, I don't care how great those things are. If you don't deliver a quality product and a quality customer service experience, it doesn't matter how great and how many leads, how many, what your brand is. You have got to actually come time deliver an amazing product if you want a sustainable business.
The customer journey needs to be very well defined and very well lined out. And so how do I go from here to here over and over and over again with a predictable outcome, and how to make sure that I'm going to be able to. Now, again, we're in the trade, so things are going to happen. It's not like you're going to be perfect every time, but if you can generate a predictable result 97, 98% of the time, you're going to have happy customers, make good profits, have a great culture. And so those are the things that I would say, like, that's the starting point, is we're really intentional about mapping out what does that workflow look like and what does it take to get from here to there. Yep. And then from that point, it's, all right, you're not going an inch deep on each of those processes and each of those pieces in the business. It's going a mile deep in each of those pieces of the business, right? So, you're talking about automations. How do we get things to help us in the business? How do we, and not just automations all throughout, but very specific locations where it's like critical points, things going from sales to production, or going from, hey, I got this lead and I'm going to be booking that appointment, and then I've got to go run that appointment and, do the follow-up on that appointment, things like that. So it's all of that stuff. And yes, that is the boring stuff, if you will, because people, they're just so much more jazzed and energized by, like, let's go do a biweekly blitz, let's go take on the town, let's go, and I got all the love for all the guys out there, the roof hustlers and the top reps and, Dale Childress and all those guys, like, they're all good friends of mine, but it's not sexy, and that's what makes us different. So
before I go into your mission, I'm interested to know this from you. When you step into a company, man, where do you start? Like, do you just tell them, move out of the way, give me that CRM in those books, and I'll talk to you in a couple of days? Or what do you do, man?
I wish they were as patient as that.
Like,
no,
just get out of my way and let me do my magic.
No, and I certainly don't want to come off as the guy that's like the magician and going to make it all well in a matter of, a few minutes. Just give me your books and give me your CRM and we'll make it all well. Like, there is that element of, like, us knowing what we know how to do, but then we also have to know what they're trying to accomplish. So a lot of it's starting with, like, I know it sounds maybe a little cheesy and everybody has, the onboarding process, but it's really just to get an understanding of, like, what is your company, like all the key people that are involved, what is your core value, what are your core values, what's your core mission, what are the things you're trying to achieve with this business, because everybody says, I want to go build a $100 million company. Like, everybody says that, or at least majority do. I would say that there are a few guys that have a good sense about, like, what it takes to run that type of operation. And so, we start off with, hey, like, what are you trying to achieve? And then through the process of that, there is definitely this, like, all right, the first thing we're to focus on, again, that customer journey, like, understanding, like, for you, because depending on the market, depending on where you are, depending on if you're a retailer or insurance, depending on if you're, a commercial or residential or service or all of the, above, all of those things factor into what type of business you're trying to build and how we approach your business, I guess, in terms of the consulting side. Because, as far as, like, for us, if you're saying, hey, I'm just a residential insurance-based business, and that's what I do. I just go out there and I storm chase, or I, like, hey, I'm in Dallas, Fort Worth Metro, and, like, it's hailstorms every year. Like, the approach that we take with that company is going to be more tactical towards, like, getting them to where they can scale with big volume and be able to take in that influx. Whereas someone that's like, hey, I'm I know one of the companies we're going to talk about in a minute is like Wayland Exteriors, right?
Love it. Yeah, we'll talk
And
about that.
they're mutual clients. So like they're a retail business based out of Pittsburgh. They run a great business, and we will get into that in
Yeah.
a second. I know
I want to.
but all that to say, like his business, we took a much different approach, and it's because like we need to work on like building a strong brand presence, having those Google reviews, having this. I'm not saying that those things all are there. It's not that stuff's not important everywhere. It is, but focusing on very specific things depending on the type of business that you have. And then the same thing for like a service business. Like we've worked with service businesses that run like flat rate service programs, or so like all of that stuff is stuff to consider as the starting point. If that answers your question,
It definitely does. The first thing, what do you want to accomplish? What do you want to get out of this? Like you said, some people are $100 million guys. But like I know Randy Brothers is very honest with people sometimes. Like, hey, listen, I can get you to right here. That's where I'm very comfortable getting to. And so if this is where your goal is, I'm the right guy possibly for you. I loved when he said that at a conference. Like, this is where I'm comfortable getting you to. But I bet you'll probably agree with this. We'll do pre-production with a contractor regularly. We'll ask them, what do you do? And I'm a roofer. I roof. Like, come on. And I'm like, okay, smartass. Let's get past that. And now, do you do TPO? Do you do flat roofs or metal? What about shingle? Do you do tile? They start going, do you do solar, gutters? What about siding? And this is what I get. We can do metal. It's like, oh, okay. But right. And you start honing in on, okay, sometimes they don't even know the offer that they really need to offer to somebody. And we're trying to put that in a templatable video for them oftentimes. But it's shocking to me, even the $3 to $5 million guys that I know are really your bread and butter for you, they don't even have the offer down at times, brother, to even be able to explain it to a homeowner in a clear, concise way.
Yeah, I mean, I think the thing about the 3 to 5 million, and I'm not saying, I don't know what your target audience,
About the same.
Is it about the same?
Yeah.
Okay. So yeah, a lot of those, what I discuss is, and I've talked about this before on other podcasts, is like this gray area. And so this gray area is like, all right, you have your entrepreneurs that can usually like will it to a $5 million or maybe even $7 or $8 million mark. But then when you start getting into this area where it's like, I don't know if I'm the guy that just wants to settle in at this like 3 to 5 or 3 or below, I should say, right? Or this, hey, I'm trying to build an 8-figure roofing company and actually try to sustain it. And everybody can, again, we're not talking about just blowing up and then coming right back down. We're talking about sustaining that. So, but like there's this gray area where a lot of people operate. And that is one of the things that we identify in there is like, what is the focus going to be? And like, what are we building? What you're referring to is like, are we going to try to get into some specialty? Are we going to try to get into more of a metal? Like, are we going to diversify what you said, the offer, and that offer ladder being a good, better, best, or being some sort of just like, a very, I would say, a scalable model to be able to work off of to say, hey, these are the services and the products that we offer, and we feel very comfortable to do that. Well, that 3 to 5 million you're talking about, a lot of companies are still figuring that out. And yes, that's our bread and butter terms in terms of like, I would say, quick things that we can give a business that just turn it up a notch, right? Yep. But realistically, our business, like we don't work with anybody right now, I don't think, that's doing less than like $7-8 million a year. And the reason for that is because if they've been with us for longer than a year, we can usually get them to saddle jump from the 3 to the 6 or the 3 to the 5 pretty quickly, just because there's things that you like, that's the bread and butter, because we can create quick results because and I'm not saying it's about a disrespect, and like, don't take this the wrong way, that they just don't know what they don't know. And so then when they get to that point where they do know some of those things that get them out of the unknown unknowns, then they're able to get in a position where they actually start seeing the top line increase, and they continue to maintain profitability. They're not just like running it up. So, but yeah, man, I mean, I've heard between offers to like, hey, what do we do, to what markets are we going to serve? Because I think a lot of guys get real happy when they see like one market goes off well, and then they like try to open like 5 at the same time, and you're like, bro, well, hold on. It doesn't work like that. Nope. Like, you got to build one market to be really stable and really consistent, and make sure you have your processes internally knocked out. And then when you go start your second one, because I've seen folks do that, they'll like start, number 2, number 3, number 4 very quickly, and then 2 of them or even all 3 of them struggle immensely. And all of that is that like I said, that's like that gray area. And when I call the gray area, I'm probably talking more of like, I would say at the very bottom end, 3, but probably more realistically like 5, up to like, 8, 9. And then once you get in that position where it's like, all right, I have staff, I'm running a $12 million, 13, 15, $20 million per year company consistently, then you're not in that position of being like, you might still be leveraged in some areas, but you have to at some point build like a team and build a squad, you know what I mean? Unless you're talking about, commercial projects or commercial work, that has like very strategic relationships or something. I'm talking about the standard roofing company out there that's not just like only commercial. When you get into those eras, then that's usually where things start to formulate and you have a better idea of like what your offers are, what you're trying to create, what you're trying to do. And then it's just a matter of, like I said, it's perfecting the back end so you can scale off of that. You know what I mean?
I do. Now, when I was reading over your website, 3 to 6 months to get some results, all right? And then 12 to 24 months sustainability. I have 2 questions about this. Number one, brother, I mean, like, everybody lives right now in an instant world. They want you to come out there, fly out to my company, give me 2 days, and fix my problems right now, all right? And I can promise at that level it does not work that way, all right?
We've attempted, and it doesn't you can make improvements, but you're not going to fix anything permanently.
So that's my 2-part question right here. I think one of the beautiful things about what you do, and I've seen you and heard about you doing this with companies, there are small little things that people don't know that if they come in and you change them, they will make an immediate impact. I've seen this with some of your clients where you'll come in there and there's like a little nugget they just missed. They were too involved. You step back and you see it, and boom, that's a big difference. Like, man, I had no idea. Yep. You should be given credit for that, because sometimes people go, oh, I didn't get anything out of this. It's like, no, you got that one little nugget that just completely streamlined your process, made you, just because you just did that little bit of something different right there. But besides those things, why does it take a long time on your side when you got some of our friends who say, I'm going to go out there for one weekend, a couple of days, we're going to completely shift your sales team and all that? What's different here?
Well, for one, I'm not out there like blitzing neighborhoods with guys and, making sales instantaneous, right? So, I mean, I will give the folks that are out there for a weekend, and I don't know necessarily what they're charging or what they're guaranteeing.
Roof
but
hustler out there, Deshaun,
I love those guys. Like I said, I don't,
just killing it.
But they go out there with sales teams, they make things happen. Yeah, I think that there's some level of legitimacy to make something happen in terms of like creating some level of influx right then, right? Yep. But as far as us, like, we're not doing that. 1, 2, to build something that's going to last, it takes time. That's just the reality. And like everybody that wants to talk about, quick profits, or the guys that get to the stages quickly, or they ramp up these businesses and they do all these things, and there's plenty of stories that we could go into, and we're going to refrain from to talk anything poorly about anybody. But we all know our people that we know that have built them up quick, and then they either come crashing down or they have issues, right? And more times than not, they do deflate. So the main thing with what we do is we're in there to fix the problem permanently, not Band-Aid it, right? So I think when you talk about that timeline, 3 to 6 months, you can feel something. So I have an example of a client that we just brought on recently. He's actually out of Florida. I'm not going to mention his name. But, that business, when we first got them onboarded, which was actually less than 3 months ago, they were like ready to go, which is a funny thing, because I think that a lot of guys, and I don't mean this by any disrespect either, but they come in and they're like, oh, we got to have this ARAP thing like right away. They're like, dude, you've been operating like this for like 6 years. Calm down.
You can take a few months.
Give me a couple months to get this stuff. Like, I can Band-Aid it. I can get it to where like we know this right now, but I need a second to set up your systems to be able to allow for that to be sustained, right? And so this one company, as an example, and they come on, I have a couple of those leadership talks with him. I have a couple of those like very direct conversations, consultant to client. And I said, man, like, give me time. Let me get in. Let me work through those things with you. And in a matter of a couple months, you're going to see things rapidly change. Like, just from the standpoint of visibility, from the standpoint of you being able to carry out that process moving forward. And so, sure enough, coming into, I think it was like last week or the week before, it's like now all of it's coming together, and he's able to see all of it, right? And see the action of it. And so what I would say to that question is things that you want lasting results in take time. That's the first thing. The second thing is that you have to see the motion and what's happening to get us there. Like, I don't want you to just like look up and be like, oh, it was fixed. I want you to understand how we fixed it and how we went about doing that, because I'm not your guru. I don't want to be the guy that is going to be hooked to your business. Now, I have some clients that are like, I'm never leaving you. I love those people, but that's not the intention. The intention is for you to be able to know how to do this, because you should be the one doing it. Yes. And so the process is 3 to 6 months, because I need you to know how to do it. I also need time to be able to get the permanent results, right? When we talk about ops, like, and I know we've gone through all the things so far around, like, you know, hey, how do you address this? And I've been kind of surface level. Like, that's the stuff that it's like, and you can certainly go on the website and look and see where we focus and how we go about doing things. We talk about that. Yeah.
Let's talk about this if it's okay. Like, can you dive into each one? Because I've got about 3 more questions here for you, because I got some deep ones, but I want to dive into what are you doing right here?
Yeah.
I've got 8 what we might call follow a proven operating system. What are these components? 8 components that you're really focused on?
Yep.
Can you run through a couple of these, if not all of them, some really important ones that you see often might be overlooked or where you really help?
Yeah. I mean, I think, and when we actually bring a client on, funny enough, we actually have 3 questions for each of these areas around, it's almost like an assessment, but it's like, how well do you do these 3 things in marketing, and how well do you do these three things in sales, right? But when you're talking about like breaking down what we call the core components, marketing, sales, production, billing, or finance, that is in our industry, and any industry by and large, you're going to have marketing, then sales, then fulfillment, right, which for us is called production, and then billing or finance, right? And so those things, and there's a diagram that's on the website somewhere, but those are what we call the core components, because those 4 things are literally your 4-legged stool. And so if you don't have one of those legs, or you lack in one of those legs, your stool is not going to be worth sitting on, right? And for as bad as that analogy might be, maybe it's good. I don't know.
That's good.
And then you have glue components. And so we have, it says
core
ops.
And glue. Okay.
Yeah, so core and glue. And so the glue, and I don't really know, maybe you can help me with a good name, but the glue is basically what kind of keeps everything together around what you're building as your core, right? And so the operation side of things really more so tailored towards like achieving, it's like all of the things that are encompassed with like hiring and onboarding and process development and things like that. So it's kind of tying into these other things, but it's really like, because you can build, what I guess I'm saying is like, you can build sales and you can just go sell a bunch of stuff. But if you don't have like a repeatable process and you just have a couple of good sales killers out there, that's great and all. There's nothing wrong with that. But what happens with 2 of those guys leave? Then you're like done, right? Yeah. So you don't actually have a real process, is I guess what I'm saying. So the 4 things being like ops, which I again would more so call our like like onboarding and hiring, like those types of things, right? And then you have technology, and then personnel and leadership. So those 4 things that again glue all of that together. If your leadership sucks, which is kind of what I wanted to segue into here with, because when we're talking about Wayland and stuff like that, one of the things that I love doing, and I found myself now kind of in my own life in graduating my courses, is really investing in these leaders from a leadership perspective. And I certainly don't have it all figured out. I'm not the guru, things like that. I do, want to always be authentic and say like, I'm not, I haven't check marked the leadership box in my life, right? I'm still learning, but I have a lot of guidance and wisdom to give through the journey and the things that I've experienced, whether that be good or bad. Because some of the things we didn't talk about in this episode, and it's totally fine because we can talk about them later or in another episode, but is like the entrepreneurial peaks and valleys, right? And and I know you and I both can, yeah. And so, but keeping level-headedness through it and understanding, like really understanding and I guess investing in that entrepreneur and in that leader, and then allowing them to be able to lead their organization the right way, but giving them really poignant guidance and really like giving them intention to giving them the like understanding and intention around like what is going to get your business from here to there. Well, it's not just building a strong sales process. It's got to be like you being the backbone and your team being the backbone of the culture and of the things that are going to actually get you from where you want to go to where you're headed. So, or from where you are to where you're headed. So I tell you all that to say that you can have great marketing, great sales, great production, great billing in theory. Okay.
Yes.
Which most of the time you don't have great at any or all of those if you don't have some of these other good pieces. But you have to have a strong set of personnel. Like you can be great at sales, but if you don't have a strong set of sales, associates, sales leaders, sales whatever, sales managers, sales reps, et cetera, if you don't have that, it's just built on this. Like if the sales guy is the company's owner, right? Let's say, which is a very common thing.
I'm the main sales. I get it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, if you don't have like an actual, like you can have a sales engine. So you always like build a sales engine that never stops producing revenue. Like, I'm the sales engine. I never stop producing revenue. But is that really going to be the scalable capability? Like you aren't going to go out and sell $40 million in roofing, Patrick Carr, and like, you know what I mean? Or whatever your goal is. It doesn't have to be 40 million, but I'm saying like whatever that is, right? And so we have to identify, recruit, and train and place the right people into the right positions. And part of that is the sales piece. Part of that's the production. You can't be Patrick Carr, I'm Johnny on the spot and going and hopping on a roof to make sure everything's okay, or going to the material supplier. Like all of the things that happen in the day-to-day roofing, like you have to have good personnel to help carry out those core components, right?
Yes.
And the same thing with technology and the same thing with leadership. It's all the same in terms of that's the glue. Those are the things that hold it all together. So if your technology sucks, you can do pen and paper. There's guys that do it, right?
I'm right here in front of you.
But what are you missing out on, and how much more do you have to hire up, and how much more do you have to manually communicate with a client or anything like, you know what I mean? Like, so those things are things that are going to help you go from where you are to where you want to go, right? Yeah, so hopefully that explains the system.
I think it does.
It's not just one thing. And yes, we are not a marketing agency. We're not a sales organization. I can give. I've operated in all the capacities. So I guess, and our team has operated by and large in all the capacities. So that's why when it's like by recommendation of going to Patrick Carr or to Hook Agency or somewhere, like I'm gonna say, hey, go to these places unless you're planning on like asking these very specific questions as you're you're interviewing your folks that you're going to hire on to bring on either marketing personnel in-house or to, when you're talking about Salty's Media, I'm saying like that's been great for Sean, but I'm saying like if I were to say, hey, go talk to these folks, well, I would want them to know which questions to ask and know what things, and those are things that are important because a lot of guys just throw money at things and they hope for the best. And so all of these things, I guess what I'm trying to say is you have to have a core understanding about them, and then you have to have the glue to hold it all together, right?
Glue components. We'll work on the name. I mean, I like it though.
I think it's good.
I was thinking web over here. I'm like, I get it.
The
okay.
web?
Yeah, the web. Okay, it's good. John, I know you're going to understand this. This just happened to me on Friday, and I've been trying to do a better job of this, Connor. All right, and I'm going to jump into your last two questions right here, but I'm interested to know what your thoughts are. I go through these periods of time, and John, unfortunately, since he's been with me, has had to deal with it a lot, where I go into a mode where I go into my, get out of my way mode, all right?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, which is like, get the out of my way and let me do what I need to do, and I'll come back to you next week when I can deal with that, okay?
We just let him learn his lesson.
Here's my point, though, about this, okay? I think one of the and I'm doing this intentionally. On Friday afternoon, we have that meeting, right? And I sit down with the team, and I'm like, listen, I know I've been a jerk the last week. Maybe the last 2 weeks. At
least he's willing to admit it. At least he's willing to admit it.
But I tried to intentionally. I even looked at John. I'm like, and you've got to deal with it more than anybody because he does our internal content. He's working with me every single day. I'm pushing back on him. He gives a great suggestion. Come on. I mean, it's tough, I think that leaders would do a lot to just sit down with your team and say, guys, I'm in the weeds right now. And I know that it's not easy on you, and I'm not giving you the time and the attention that you need right now. Yep. But if you give me 2 weeks, I'm going to come out of this, and we're going to be better. I need you just to give me 2 weeks. And I said, I need 2 weeks is what I need. We're pushing through this marketing. We're pushing through this little point right here. Yep. And Connor, I call it like this hill we have to go over.
Squeezes.
Yeah, and then
squeeze.
We're at that point where we're like we got to pull ourselves up onto that platform right now. And then all right, now there's going to be another hill that we got to climb. But I'm trying to be more intentional, especially with people like John and people who give a lot, and we're traveling all this week. Next week.
2 weeks of travel. Yeah.
I need them to know it's not like I'm trying to be a jerk or I'm trying to not give them or walk past them and I'm not saying hello. Yep. It's that I want to get there so that you all make more money, this business grows, and you have the ability to do more for your family. And I think a lot of business owners do the first part. I'm doing it. I'm in it. But if you don't explain it to the people that are doing the work, I think they lose connection with the business 100%. Itself. Purpose, yeah. And I'm trying to be like this week. I've come in and I'm like,
where was it? Purposeful leadership somewhere.
Yeah,
in there.
I'm gonna very good segue. But John, I'm trying. I'll tell you this in public, John. I'm trying to do better because I don't want to come in here and do a damn podcast and John's watching it and I'm over here talking about, well, the leadership principles are about empathy for your team, and he's like, yeah, that's real nice, Patrick. That was
and
a real
here's
joke.
the thing. What I love about what you just said, and I'll let you continue, is that that's really admirable that you have that level of you have that self-awareness and that conviction, because most guys don't. Like, most guys will literally be like, I'm doing this, especially guys that are podcasting it or have like some level of success. And I have been a part of organizations, and I also have witnessed many organizations that have anything but. So kudos to you, brother, for being that guy, to be able to have that self-awareness.
The only way I can produce a product, I don't do the editing right now. I can't do what John does. Like when he puts our videos out there, the ads we're running right now that we're getting lead, he does them, not me. Yeah. The idea came from him. So I got to be honest. Like, I can't sit there and go, this is me. I'm doing this. I need him to be on the same page with me so that me and him think the same. We're after the same goal. I think that there's probably business owners out there, they have this goal and they think that everybody on their team understands that goal, Connor. Like, oh, we all know where we're going. No, you don't.
Such a disconnection.
There's a disconnect between what the goal of this business is. Where are we going? And I'm trying to be a lot more intentional about that, brother. I really am.
I love that. I love the authentic and raw feeling of that, and I believe your intentions are true there with that, like trying to convey that message. I feel that, man, because I'm in that same boat. Like, I'm be honest with you. I mean, I've done it in a handful of times in other eras, and done it with the roofing company and me being at the spearhead of it, and then doing it in another effect, right? But like, even what we're building right now, what I talk about is the squeeze. Like, you're in the squeeze, and so the squeeze is like, I gotta get to the next level. And so some of that might be better appropriated as like this hill you're talking about, or like I gotta get it. But like, it's the squeeze of like, man, I got so many things that I have to get done in a short period of time. This must happen. I've got to fit this square peg through the round hole. And get through this to get my business to that next level. And that's the same thing. That's something that you'll feel as a roofing company owner as well. But I think as someone that supports other companies, and you're doing the same thing, like, you're on your own. I wouldn't say there's not a blueprint. I'm sure there's agency blueprints, there's things like that. But I think like what makes it a little bit more, I don't want to say it's tougher. I would just say it's different. Is like, for me, working with a client in the space of not with me, if I'm a contractor and I'm working to deliver a product, especially if I'm like consistently, like I said, just like a retail roofing company, okay? Every day is going to present its own challenges. Every day is going to have its own things. There's no question about it. But it's really going to be like a matter of like, is it leaking or is it not? Or is it done right or is it not, right? Whereas when you're on like our side, and I'm not saying this because it's any worse or any better, like there's plenty of things that I loved about contracting that I don't miss, and vice versa, right? And glad I have some of those minority partnerships now. I'm not as involved in those day-to-day pieces. But it is that you, like, when you're talking about what you're talking about from our perspective, you're trying to service them and create the most value for them. And the B2B side of things especially is so tough because it presents an array of challenges. Now, I don't know about your product as far as like, I know that you guys go out and you deliver credible content, all that sort of stuff. But as far as like all the things that presents, I'm sure about every time you go and visit with somebody, it's different. Like, it's a different thing, right? And it's kind of the same thing for us. So the challenge of the scalability for us, there is, in what we do at least, is in some ways more, because it's not as predictable. Like, we have guys that like yeah, you have the Whalens that are like really good at implementing and like, but then you got some guys that's like, man, I have to work with his like leadership or, like how he leads and how he does things, and so it's different. It's a very different thing. But to just piggyback on that, what you guys have been talking about, which I gave, huge kudos to you because, dude, that's like incredible self-awareness. And I feel you. I'm in it. Like I'm in that era with my own company. I think the number one thing that we can do as leaders is, from my perspective and how I've gone through my journey, is just to be vulnerable at the right times and just to be what you're just talking about right there, which is like, look, man, I know I've bombed it. I know I'm not being fully present. I know I've got 50,000 things needing to get done. You're still here at 8. Sometimes I roll in at 10 because I stayed up till 2 in the morning and then I worked. There's like all these radical things of like the entrepreneur, I'm saying, right? That core focal point leader. I feel like one of the things that I've said to clients many times is like, and you're right, it is a matter of elaboration. It's bridging the gap.
Yes.
It's a matter of like saying, hey, this is where we are, this is where we're going, and I need you to understand that this right here, like to get there, is going to take you being on it, is going to take me being on it. But in the process, it's going to get real muddy because we might it's not it's like, it's the stock market. And then on top of that, you've got all these pivots, these like lateral pivots throughout there. Cause you're not just going to be like on the path straight and narrow. It's going to be, okay, well, we could do this with the business, or we could go over here. We could, there's a lot of things that you can do in terms of the pivots. Right. And so I have found myself to be vulnerable in the right times, in the right place, in the right settings, and not to be the guy that's like constantly like, because you can be which I fell in this trap a few years ago, but like over conscious about like every move, where it's like, I want to make sure I'm not making my people upset or whatever, because, part of that leadership balance is like being very, what I would say is to most of the folks that I work with is like, don't fiddle fart around and just be very decisive, right? And if you're decisive with the decision while also taking into consideration of your team and the emotions that might present, right? Then as long as you're making that decision, knowing that there's this deposit, I think I've talked with you about this maybe before, but with deposit and then withdrawal at the right time, right? And so I think we talked about this maybe another podcast. I don't know.
We have.
Okay. But like the deposit element is like, if I'm making deposits over and over and over again, and then I have to make a withdrawal, and I tell the teams these things, and like the folks that I'm leading as well as the folks that we consult, is like, you can't just deposit, because then you're never gonna, it looks great, but you got to put something into the economy. You got to inject something, right? You got to
overdraft that account.
Well, no, I'm saying if you're depositing constantly, but if you're withdrawing, but then you can't. You're right, absolutely. You can't overdraft, and you're gonna have pissed off 100%.
Yes.
Sorry, I thought we were. No, you're 100% right, and so. All of that to say, like, there has to be a balance. And do I want that bank account to be at $1 million or $2 million, $5 million, whatever that? Yeah, obviously, I want it to always be. But I have to still be able to take a withdrawal at times. And so as long as we're making those deposits, and then in the right times and the right settings, I did this just recently. And some of this, I don't know who's necessarily, if, John's your number 2 or whatever, I don't know if that's necessarily delineated into business, and it's fine. It's fine if it's not. I'm just saying.
But he works with me every day. He's my, like, right next to me. Yeah,
and that's great. I would just say that, like, you with your number 2 or you with your team leadership, the people that are at the top with you, and kind of feel a little sense of that loneliness. Yes, it's true. Gosh. What I would say is, just like having a sit down, vulnerable conversation every once in a while. And I know that a lot of people like the EOS model. It's like, do it once a quarter, I'll do it as often as I feel it's necessary. Sometimes it is once a quarter. Sometimes it's twice a year. Sometimes it's 3 times in a month. Like, sometimes it just depends on the season I'm in and the squeeze that I'm feeling, right? So, I just had one of these very recently with Michaela, just very transparently, where I felt like I just needed to give her time. Like, I just need to give her my time, right? Which is like, okay, I've been going all these places, I've been traveling, I've been, doing everything under the sun, but like, have I given you some time? And so giving them that person some time allowed for me to convey the message and be like, no. I might seem distracted. I might seem like we're going everywhere, but like, I promise you, this is all fitting into the master plan. And then as soon as that was conveyed, it's not like she ever questioned me, but that communication then took us up the next notch.
I have to ask you this then. because here's what I've struggled with, and this is just a personal question to you, and then I'm gonna go into the pricing. Can we bring that pricing sheet up, John, on his website? I want to know your opinion about this. I had this team meeting. This was early last week, John. We all came in here. All right, John's pacing over here. I got 2 of my other leadership teams and stuff. And
pacing in a good way, like pacing,
no, that's just what I do.
He paced.
He
pacing back and forth over here.
On top of the ADHD, I don't talk during meetings. I just pace and listen, and then I'll give my feedback at the end.
Okay, so I thought that was like
no. So he's pacing over here.
He's just pacing. Yeah.
I got the operations manager. I got my lead editor over here and stuff, and where I'm being hit with things that all 3 of them think I need to do differently, and they were all very good suggestions.
Yeah, sure.
But I sat there and I'm like, and you remember this, John? I'm just like, okay, God, guys, like all these things I need to. I get it. It seems like I freaking suck.
Patrick sucks.
Man,
that's what this meeting is
and
about.
It wasn't meant that way from them.
No,
it was meant to help.
Yeah,
and
sure.
I left that meeting frustrated, and John was, of course, the one who got to see some of it.
So everyone get out.
I know. Everybody, I'm done with it.
I'm done with this.
Go home. But I guess it's like sometimes as a business owner, it's really hard when you realize how little sometimes you know. Sometimes living in that ignorance, Connor, it's just like a little bit easier to live in ignorance than when people start to show you the truth and you go,
oh, yeah.
I don't know everything. And you know what? As much as I hate to admit it right now,
Yep.
that change that they're asking for is so small, but it's the right thing to do. And I get defensive at first sometimes, and I have to go back and go, my bad yesterday. I mean, I try to intentionally go back and do that, but sometimes it just feels overwhelming because I thought I was doing it right. I'm like, I'm doing it right. Yep. The way I'm thinking about seems right. And then, boom, they hit me with something. And they're like, well, Pat, if you just did this and this, it could be this.
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
But it's the right move to make. And I've struggled with that a lot, like being able to take criticism in my own business because I want to feel like I'm the one who's got the right answers. But damn, I'll be honest, not most of the time. Some of the best things that have happened in this business have been from people like our ad right now. There's an ad we're running right now. Man, I think we got a click-through rate on this thing of like 12%.
Yeah, something like that.
Unique click. I mean, it's unbelievable.
Wow.
Unique click-through rate.
Oh, that's crazy.
I mean, we're just getting.
Wait, you're talking about ABC?
For those that don't know click rates, that's very good.
We got a hold rate of 48% on this ad. So, but
What are you doing? Did you take your shirt off?
I don't know.
No, it was because of something he told me not to
do.
What's that female audience look like?
If you look at the ad, I told him we got to do like a Tarantino zoom. We got to just at the very beginning, and after a couple, he was like, "Why are we even doing that?"
I'm done with this. I'm going. Do you have to know? Just do it.
Just leave it there.
Do it there. Just do it like. And so I was like, "This is bullshit." Whatever. Sure enough, we begin running the ad. I called him in. Was it Friday or just this morning? And I was like, "Bro, look at this.
Look at it.
This is it. We found this is a formula. It works." And I was like, "Well, we wouldn't have done this without you. Thank you for seeing a vision that I had no idea was going on, but you saw something that I didn't."
Yeah.
So that's really cool. And I there you go, John. There's your props for the day. Okay, no more than that.
Good deal, John.
Testimonial page.
There we go. The testimonial page. Patrick Carr for Patrick Carr.
For his
Blue
team.
Collar Media. Patrick Carr. Testimonial.
So I got 2 more questions for you. This I love on your website, John. We'll throw it up there during the podcast. All right. You are upfront about your pricing, and this is something that is like. In the contracting blue collar trades, it's like, whoa, I'm not putting my pricing out there. You're willing to do it. It's so upfront, so direct.
Yep.
Why? Like, what led you to do it this way? What's the thinking behind it, brother?
This is gonna sound super arrogant, but like I only want to work people who want to work with me, man.
Hey,
Like
man.
I'm just be honest with you.
love
Like
that.
I think that people need to see it, and then they need to digest it, and then it needs to go out the other end and see how it seems. Like I'm just being honest. Like I did some of this at the Roofing Academy, like try to be more like present with pricing and things like that. And I feel like I don't know if it's necessarily a good or bad thing. I like it though.
love it.
Yeah, thank you. Well, I like it because I think then there's no question marks. Like it's like, hey, this is what it is. Now, we also have, so this is like our monthly pricing. The reason why I post the monthly pricing is because I think is more palatable, I guess. We have an upfront too for people that want to get like a discount or whatever, you know what I mean? And the upfront's technically like what the package cost is. Like when we say, hey, this is your product, this is what you're getting delivered, this is how much it costs. But this is more of like, hey, just financing it out for them, if you will.
Yes.
So we just make it like this so that people can see it front and center. And yeah, what are these things? So I mean, like the financial side of things is just strictly financials, and it does include syncing up your books to your CRM. So if you want to, be able to run an accrual-based business, then we will assist you in doing that. And then that also involves our bookkeeping team to be able to keep all your day-to-day bookkeeping stuff up with. So basically categorizations, reconciliations, AR, AP, so anything that is related to invoicing or to bill entry into the books. Now, we're not making phone calls on collections and but like everything that's back end that can be done from afar, right? I say afar because, I mean, you could still do collections from afar, but we just rather you be like the person to go. I mean, we can assist in some of those accords with those other packages that we offer, but that's just not part of our deal for the bottom line.
Final question that I have for you is this, and I really appreciate it, but this is one that I wanted to wait till the end. I wanted to ask you because I have my opinions. Private equity and roofing right now. You're
catching me on a good time too, because there's been a lot of mess in the last.
There's been a lot of, and this is why I'm bringing it up right now. A lot of mess. I got some calls over the weekend about some mess going on right now with one particular merger, let's say acquisition on the private equity side.
Yep.
The reason I want to ask you this, the final question, is that I think there are two things to consider. Number one, that you are giving, in my opinion, a person, let's say like a Sean Whalen, the ability to compete with private equity that is in his market. I know the private equity that's in his market.
Yep.
I've worked with him. And so I know that you're giving him tools that private equity is giving to their people at a top level, but you're implementing them at a contractor level, in my opinion, to make them more efficient and more impactful. And so I love that side of things, all right? So you're competing with it.
Yeah.
But then here's my second thought about it is this, though. I know you know a lot about these acquisitions and mergers. You do.
Yes.
You've done a few, been a part of a lot. Mm-hmm. And so when you're implementing these things, are you implementing them also with the idea of if he says, hey, I want to sell, that you're doing these things in a way that they can turn around and make that move in the near future or in the future? Because I know their needs matter. Maybe they say, I never want to do that. But how are you building these? Or are you building these to sell and compete with the private equity world that has become more of a player in the last 3 years?
Yeah. So, and the answer to that is I'm helping you build a sellable entity if you want to sell. But again, that's where I use more of the interchangeably. I use enterprise value. So, hey, I'm helping you build enterprise value. For the sake of like a Whalen, because we talk about Whalen a handful of times on the podcast today, that guy's never wanting to sell, right? Or at least that's what his intentions have been made. And a strong intention, like legacy company, et cetera, right? So like a company like him, not interested, right? But there are companies that come to us. So I've had, I don't know, we probably had like a dozen come to us that are like, hey, I'm like, I want to get in on this action, right? And some of that is, some of that's changed as time has gone on. So I, and I know that we don't have enough time to get into this, but just very quickly, like I got my first dose of that in 2020. Yep. So like I've been in it since it pretty much started. Like that's when things really kind of started to, private equity and anything public as well started to get interest in like what is roofing like, because they already operated or had been operating relatively in HVAC, and so they were like, what's this roofing thing? And like, while I tell people like roofing is an incredibly great business because everybody knows that's making a profit on it is. It's a high ticket and high turn business. So you can sell something for $20,000 and do it in one day, right? HVAC doesn't work that way. Electrical doesn't work that way. Like, I mean, you can sell a big unit.
Plumbing doesn't work that way.
Plumbing doesn't work that way, right? That's what I'm saying. So I think the uniqueness, if I could just talk about that first, about our industry is like, we are not, even though it still trades, it is different than the other trades, and especially the ones that have operated with a private equity-backed approach so far, right? So So the business that we're trying to build, yes, is something that is a sellable, tangible value for a company. But we've had companies come in, I would say, like I said, about a dozen of them that have come in. They're like, hey, when we get on this private equity train, we want to do this thing. And we know that you've, helped exercise a few deals. And I'm like, yeah, let's talk. So then we talk and then we work through things and we go through all the processes. And then what happens is then they start producing like profits they've never seen before.
Yeah.
and then they're like, oh, hold on one second. Maybe I don't want to, like, I like making $1 million a year or whatever, and then like me not having to work, 75% of the amount of work that I did last year, whatever, you know what I mean? So we've had some that have gone that route. What I will say is like trends of it in my overall opinion.
Yep.
And I'll say this, like I said this at the beginning of this last kick up. So the last kick up started in, I would say, like end of 2022, beginning of 2023 was when this started to kind of this round, because there's been like, I would say, in my opinion, and I know this sounds crazy, but there's really been like 3 rounds already. So it was like the round that I caught the back end of on my era, and then there was like another round of a couple of things that tried to take that didn't take any, they didn't get any legs. And then this one's like the third time where it's like, all right, we got big money in, we've got people out of Cali and New York and like institutional money that's getting involved. And so it's different this time for sure. But what they're finding out, and what I've said from the beginning, is that roofing is not just like this money-making machine that you can just put money towards and it's just going to like rain.
Yep.
So my opinion about all of that, and when I will say the same thing, the only difference is I do have some, like, it's funny we're having this recording at the time we're having it, because like the beginning of the year, maybe like February and March, like there was a lot of news that I guess broke. And it wasn't like really big news to a lot of like, there wasn't anybody covering it on, CNN and Fox News, right, or anything like that. But it was big news for our industry, and not even roofing contractor. A lot of them didn't pick it up.
IRE sure was. There was a lot of talk at IRE.
But there was a lot of talk at IRE.
Yeah, there was.
But even then, what I'm saying is there still wasn't a lot of like really broken news. Like, you know what I'm saying?
Hard, like,
yeah,
this
it wasn't
facts.
like, hey, this.
Yeah.
And I think that was strategic. I don't know if there people get paid off or what. I don't know. Anyway, I'm not gonna conspiracize, but I would say there's a lot of things that didn't take place that I thought, okay, after this run and this attempt, and we know you and I have mutual, connections to these folks, but then there's others that are impacted from other. I'm saying there are other PE roll-ups that have had the same type of effect of what we've talked about. I'm just not going to break the news on the show here.
Sure.
But we know, you and I both know who we're talking about. And those companies that were impacted by that particular one, what I'm saying is it's happened in a handful. And so, but my opinion's still the same. My opinion's just slightly changed in terms of like, hey, keep an eye out. Like, make sure you don't get, taken on the big dream that everything's going to work out and you're just going to make money and money, because it doesn't. It's not seemingly that way, but my opinion is still that private equity is highly disorganized. That is my opinion. And it's been that way since when I first started talking about this, 2020, 2021, 2022, like and all these doomsdayers, because there's been doomsdayers that have completely spoken out of turn, or there are people that are like with these private equity entities that are like, I'm telling you what, if you don't get in, you're done. Yeah. And I'm like, well, hold the phone, because I'm telling you right now, the clients that I have and clients that have competing markets with private equity are actually eating up market share because of this whole BS that you're going through. And so while that's like an interesting element, it also was kind of, I'm not saying I'm like a genie in a bottle or I foresighted that, but like I could see, just because of the side of things I'm in, which you're absolutely right. I'm trying to teach folks some of the things that, like, hey, maybe they don't know the things behind the curtain, or they need to get, but like, I know I'm not a dummy, so I know that it takes time to organize. It doesn't just like overnight inject millions of dollars and now you just birthed 15 general managers just like perfect and ready to go. Like, it doesn't happen like that, man. Like, it just doesn't work. And so when you got guys seeking out pest control or alarm system, I mean, dude, I've heard so many things of all these folks that are trying to like implant leaders into businesses that have no earthly idea of our business. And when you're trying to do that, like you can pay someone all the dollars in the world, or you can come in and try to work with them, whatever. But like it takes time to learn this business. And while I said earlier that like sometimes it seems a little bit more simplified than like some of the things we do in terms of like it doesn't get that complex. It is complex. It is absolutely 100% a business that you have to know what you're doing. Yes, you do. Like you can't just go in and it's not some like tech scaled product where I can go and like acquire it and then just pump more money into marketing and get a few web designers that are really good at what they do, and then just like all of a sudden overnight it launched on the App Store and it made bajillions of dollars. It doesn't work like that. It doesn't work like our product doesn't work like that. So my opinion, short story, I know it's been a very long response, but it's still very disorganized. Still is going to take time to organize. I would be wary of who you're partnering with or who you're having those conversations with. Okay, because private equity, and you and I think have talked about this in the past before, but I want to make sure that I ended on this. Private equity is doing the same thing no matter what entity it is. Private equity is a group of high net worth investors that are going to acquire something and expect a return. Mm-hmm. Okay, that's how it fundamentally works.
Yeah, we have noticed with it that there's a lot of bureaucracy and a lot of red tape to jump through. Mm-hmm. And one of the things, I'll keep on mentioning a guy like Sean Whalen. I call Sean right now and be like, hey, man, we need to get up there and do a video tomorrow. Okay, come on up, Pat. Let's do it. He's a decision maker, and it gets done quick. Yep. And with this stuff, the bureaucracy, I find, can be very limiting at times, especially in the beginning as you're trying to grow. You sell, you're like, okay, now we're going to grow. But that bureaucracy can get in the way if it's not done the right way. Now, I want to end by saying this, man. I appreciate you coming out here. It's pouring rain outside today.
I had to drive for like 15 minutes.
Yeah, it was pouring rain out here.
No, thanks,
you've helped thousands of contractors between your work on stages. I mean, the little nuggets that you give people. And you're one of the few people, if not the only one in the industry, that is focused on one very specific thing, that back office. And there are others I know that do it as part of their programs and stuff. But you have a really targeted approach, and the riches are in the niches or niches. Yeah. And you've really done it well. I wish you the most success. I appreciate you introducing me to Sean and giving me the opportunity.
Brother,
you did that.
It's an honor.
But you did. You took a risk because you didn't know everything about me, but you knew we talked.
Dude, and we've worked in other capacities together.
Yeah, so. And I appreciate that, taking a chance. Anybody who takes a chance on this company, on my team, you have my loyalty for as long as you want it. Yeah. So thank you. All right.
Well, quick shout out to you, bro. You guys do fire stuff, and I think you've done a great job since the launch of what you've been doing. So I don't know how long it's been, but it's been really cool. The content you pump out for him. And for others I've seen, it's really great. So I love it. And I think you're a good dude all the way around. So
I appreciate that, everybody.
So
John, put his all of information, everything he needs to contact Connor over here, we'll put right across the board, okay? Right across the bottom right now.
I love it.
Executive business partners, I encourage anybody and my team, if you work with us, contact this man, okay? I want to be very clear about it. If you work with my team, contact Connor so that you can get that back office taken care of. Those things that we don't do for you here, this guy does. All
Thanks,
right,
brother. Yeah, exec.partners. If you want to check it out, I know you put all the stuff there, but exec.partners, you can send me a message. I'm happy to message on Facebook. I'm pretty available there. So any way to get in contact with us, make it happen. But Executive Partners is here to help you guys with all that stuff. So I appreciate you, brother. Thanks a lot,
man. I appreciate everything always, man. Thank you.